Picture going around online this month. It claims to show a screenshot of a 2002 episode of The Simpsons that eerily mirrors real-life events.
For over 3 decades, The Simpsons has shocked fans with storylines that somehow ended up mirroring reality, from political twists to world-changing technology. Now, as we approach the end of 2025, some of their eeriest predictions seem to be lining up in ways that will blow your mind. Were these just lucky guesses, clever satire, or something much stranger? What you're about to see might change the way you look at this animated family forever. Join us as we uncover more. President Trump's economic crisis. In one of the most talked about episodes of The Simpsons, titled Bart to the Future, Season 11, Episode 17, aired March 19, 2000, viewers were given a satirical look into America's political future. The storyline flashes forward to a time when Lisa Simpson becomes the President of the United States. While trying to manage the country, she delivers a line that has since become legendary.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
Lisa states that she has inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. At the time of airing in March 2000, Donald Trump was known as a wealthy businessman and media personality, but the idea of him becoming president seemed like a punchline. The show's writers leaned into that absurdity, never imagining how eerily accurate it would become years later. Fast forward to 2016, and Trump shocked the world by winning the presidency. Since then, this prediction has been one of the most cited examples of The Simpsons seemingly peering into the future. What makes this prediction so unsettling in 2025 is how closely it resonates with America's current economic challenges. Today, the U.S. faces soaring national debt, debates over government shutdowns, widening income inequality, and growing instability in global markets. While the 2000 episode used budget crunch as a satirical jab, it now reflects the very real concerns of policymakers and citizens. The connection deepens when you consider how Trump's political legacy continues to influence economic debates. His presidency left behind polarizing fiscal policies, from major tax cuts to trade wars, which economists still analyze for their long-term impact. Even in 2025, Trump remains a central figure in American politics, and discussions around national debt and economic crises are often tied back to his administration. So what seemed like a throwaway joke in a cartoon has turned into a cultural touchstone. The idea that a fictional Lisa Simpson would inherit financial chaos from a President Trump has become symbolic of the very real financial anxieties that define our present time. Was it simply satire, or did the writers of The Simpsons capture something deeper about America's trajectory? Whatever the case, the line from this 2000 episode has aged from comedy into prophecy, making it one of the most jaw-dropping predictions in the show's history. But trust me, we're only scratching the surface. The next prediction will leave you stunned. The rise of virtual reality in everyday life. In the episode Friends and Family, Season 28, Episode 2, aired October 2, 2016, the Simpson family gets introduced to an experiment that feels straight out of today's tech landscape. Springfield embraces a world where people use sleek VR headsets to create alternative realities. Families interact not by being physically present, but by plugging into shared digital experiences. At the time, in 2016, this idea played as another clever exaggeration of modern life. What would happen if technology replaced face-to-face relationships entirely? Fast forward to 2025, and this prediction feels less like satire and more like a preview of our daily routines. Virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, are no longer niche technologies reserved for gaming enthusiasts. Companies like Meta have poured billions into creating immersive VR platforms, while Apple's highly anticipated Vision Pro has set a new standard for mixed reality headsets, blending digital content seamlessly with the physical world. What makes The Simpsons' prediction so striking is not just the use of VR headsets, but the way it foresaw their integration into family and social life. In the show, people build connections through virtual avatars and shared environments, a concept mirrored today in platforms like Horizon Worlds, Roblox, and VR Chat. Families in different parts of the world can gather in a single digital space, watch movies together in virtual theaters, or even attend simulated classrooms and workplaces. This shift extends far beyond entertainment. In 2025, industries are rapidly adopting AR and VR for professional use. Remote collaboration now happens inside immersive 3D workspaces, where employees interact as avatars around virtual conference tables. Healthcare professionals are using VR for advanced surgical training. Schools are experimenting with AR lessons, turning history classes into interactive journeys through ancient Rome, or science courses into 3D explorations of the human body. The Vision Pro, in particular, represents the leap from novelty to necessity. Unlike earlier VR headsets, it is marketed not just as a gaming device, but as a productivity tool, something you can use for work, communication, and everyday tasks. That's exactly what The Simpsons hinted at. VR not as a toy, but as a new way of structuring daily life. Still, the cultural implications remain as complex as the technology itself. Are we moving toward deeper connection through digital spaces, or are we risking the isolation and detachment that the episode playfully warned about? By predicting a world where family bonds were mediated by headsets, The Simpsons highlighted both the promise and the pitfalls of a VR-driven future. From comedy to prophecy, the show captured a turning point that we're living through right now. Animal translation devices. Back in 1995, The Simpsons aired Lisa's Wedding, Season 6, Episode 19, an episode that whisked viewers into a futuristic version of Springfield. Among the many futuristic gadgets on display, one stood out for its humor and imagination. Lisa's fiancé, Hugh, shows off a device that can translate a dog's bark into plain English. At the time, it was played as an absurd but hilarious take on how technology might evolve. Who would ever need a talking dog translator? But here we are in 2025, and the line between that cartoon gag and real-world science is blurring. Researchers are now developing AI-powered tools designed to decode animal communication. Far from being science fiction, machine learning models are analyzing everything from whale songs to elephant rumbles, bird calls, and even the subtle sounds dogs and cats make to communicate with humans. One of the leading projects in this field is the Earth Species Project, a non-profit using artificial intelligence to interpret non-human communication. Their mission is ambitious: build open-source tools that could one day allow humans to understand the languages of other species. Similarly, some research labs have trained algorithms on thousands of recordings of dogs' barks, whines, and growls to categorize emotional states, whether the animal is happy, stressed, or in need of attention. In the commercial market, tech companies have also jumped in. Devices and apps now claim to interpret pet sounds, translating a meow into "I'm hungry" or a bark into "I want to play." While these tools are still primitive compared to the fully conversational dog translator imagined in The Simpsons, they represent the early stages of what could become a groundbreaking form of interspecies communication. The potential impact of this technology is staggering. Imagine farmers using AI translation devices to better understand the stress levels of livestock, or conservationists decoding the signals of endangered animals in the wild. In 2025, scientists are already experimenting with decoding whale songs to protect migration routes and using sensors to monitor bees' vibrations for signs of environmental stress. Yet the humor in The Simpsons' prediction carries a deeper question. What would it mean for humanity if we could truly understand animals? Would it strengthen the bond between humans and limb their pets, or create ethical dilemmas about how we treat animals once their voices are heard? What once seemed like a far-fetched comedic gadget is now on the frontier of science and AI innovation. The Simpsons once again took a playful look at the future and stumbled into a prediction that feels closer to reality with every passing year. The Disney-Fox merger. In the late 1990s, The Simpsons delivered one of its most striking corporate predictions. In the episode When You Dish Upon a Star, Season 10, Episode 5, aired November 8, 1998, Homer befriends Hollywood celebrities Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger, and Ron Howard. At one point, the episode cuts to a wide shot of the 20th Century Fox studio lot. Beneath the iconic logo is a smaller sign that reads, "A division of Walt Disney Company." At the time, the joke landed as playful satire. Fox was known for its edgy programming, while Disney was seen as the family-friendly media giant. The thought of Disney owning Fox felt like an absurd clash of identities, cartoonishly funny, but far-fetched. Yet 2 decades later, in 2019, it became reality when Disney finalized its $71.3 billion acquisition of 21st Century Fox's entertainment assets. The move consolidated some of the world's biggest franchises under one roof, from The Simpsons itself to Avatar and X-Men. By 2025, the ripple effects of this mega merger are still shaping the entertainment industry. Disney's purchase of Fox wasn't just about film rights, it reshaped the competitive landscape of streaming, television, and cinema. It gave Disney control over a massive content library, strengthening Disney Plus at a time when streaming wars were heating up against Netflix, Amazon Prime, and newcomers like Apple TV+. This merger also had cultural consequences. Franchises once divided between studios were united under a single corporate umbrella. For instance, Marvel's X-Men characters, long tied up with Fox, are now expected to be fully integrated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Avatar, The Way of Water and its sequels also became central to Disney's theatrical strategy, proving the company's dominance at the box office. Critics argue that the merger concentrated too much power in Disney's hands, reducing competition and diversity in mainstream film production. Independent creators worry about fewer pathways to theatrical release, while audiences debate whether the Disney brand has diluted the identity of Fox's grittier projects. Meanwhile, the irony of The Simpsons, a Fox show predicting its own future corporate parent, only adds another layer to the story.
Did this episode of The Simpsons from 19 years ago predict the future? It shows the entrance to 20th Century Fox movie studios.
In 2025, Disney's hold on entertainment remains strong, but the merger has sparked ongoing discussions about media consolidation and its impact on creativity. The prediction from 1998, meant as satire, now stands as one of the clearest examples of The Simpsons forecasting reality. A throwaway background gag became a historic media prophecy. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, it absolutely does. Robot takeover of jobs. In Itchy and Scratchy Land, Season 6, Episode 4, aired October 2nd, 1994, one of the most memorable Simpsons episodes. The family visits a violent cartoon-inspired theme park. While there, they encounter animatronic robots built to entertain guests. But things take a dark turn when the robots malfunction and turn on the humans. The chaos parodied science fiction classics like Westworld and Jurassic Park, but it also contained an eerily prescient idea. What happens when machines stop working for us and start working against us? Although the episode exaggerated the dangers of robots, its core message resonates deeply in 2025. Today, we're not facing murderous theme park robots, but we are confronting a different kind of takeover, automation and artificial intelligence replacing human labor across entire industries. Self-checkout machines, autonomous vehicles, and factory robots have already transformed retail, transportation, and manufacturing. Meanwhile, AI-powered tools are reshaping white-collar jobs that once seemed untouchable. In 2025, legal research, journalism, finance, marketing, and even medical diagnostics are increasingly assisted, or in some cases replaced, by AI systems. The fear that robots and algorithms will push humans out of work is no longer just a sci-fi nightmare. This shift is raising major questions. What happens to workers whose roles can be fully automated? Will society adapt with new industries and retraining opportunities? Or will millions be left behind in an economy that values machines over people? Economists warn of widening inequality as companies adopt AI for efficiency, while labor unions are pushing back, calling for protections and regulations to safeguard human employment. At the same time, many argue that automation brings opportunities as well as risks. Just as past technological revolutions eliminated some jobs while creating new ones, AI and robotics may pave the way for industries we haven't yet imagined. Already, there's growing demand for AI trainers, ethicists, and robotics technicians, roles that didn't exist a decade ago. Still, The Simpsons' prediction taps into the unease many feel today. The robots in Itchy and Scratchy Land may have rebelled for comedic effect, but the real-world rebellion is subtler. Algorithms outpacing human capability, machines doing the work we once thought was secure, and people left questioning their place in a rapidly evolving economy. What began as a cartoon gag about malfunctioning theme park robots now mirrors society's deepest anxieties about automation. In 1994, it was a joke. In 2025, it's a debate shaping the future of work itself. Global environmental disaster. In The Old Man and the Lisa, Season 8, Episode 21, aired April 20th, 1997, Mr. Burns, the embodiment of corporate greed, attempts to rehabilitate his image by partnering with Lisa on an environmental project. At first, it seems like progress, Burns finally taking an interest in sustainability. But in true Simpsons fashion, things spiral into chaos. His recycling venture results in the grotesque creation of Lil Lisa's patented animal slurry, a horrifying mixture of recycled animals turned into a marketable product. The satire cut to the core of environmental hypocrisy, corporations pretending to go green while causing more destruction than good. Fast forward to 2025, and that dark comedy feels far less exaggerated. Around the world, the climate crisis is no longer a distant threat, it's a daily reality. Rising global temperatures have fueled wildfires, droughts, and floods on an unprecedented scale. Food insecurity is on the rise, with crop failures tied to extreme weather patterns and dwindling water supplies. Like Mr. Burns's misguided slurry, many green solutions are proving to be more complicated and sometimes more harmful than they first appear. One clear parallel is in the debate over sustainability technologies. Lab-grown meat, insect-based protein, and synthetic foods are marketed as environmentally friendly alternatives to traditional agriculture. While they may indeed reduce carbon emissions, critics argue that rushing these solutions to market without proper oversight risks creating new health, environmental, and ethical dilemmas. The irony isn't lost. Just as Burns turned recycling into a bizarre animal pulp industry, real-world companies may unintentionally replace one ecological problem with another. Meanwhile, governments and corporations face mounting pressure to deliver on their climate pledges. Energy transitions are underway, with wind, solar, and nuclear projects accelerating, but reliance on fossil fuels remains high. Plastic waste and deforestation continue to plague the planet, and developing nations, least responsible for emissions, often bear the worst consequences of climate disasters. The Simpsons' parody of corporate greenwashing is painfully relevant. In 2025, corporations often highlight sustainability in glossy reports and advertisements, but behind the branding, critics argue that systemic issues remain largely unaddressed. Consumers are more skeptical than ever, asking whether companies are truly investing in the environment or simply profiting off the optics of eco-friendly labels. Ultimately, The Old Man and the Lisa captured a dilemma we are living today. Solutions that look promising on paper can spiral into disasters if driven by greed rather than genuine care for the planet. The line between satire and reality is disturbingly thin. What once seemed like cartoon absurdity now feels like a warning we can't afford to ignore. That's not all. The Simpsons had another eerie vision that might hit even closer to home. Holographic/virtual weddings. In Lisa's Wedding, Season 6, Episode 19, aired March 19, 1995, one of The Simpsons' most famous flash-forward episodes, Lisa catches a glimpse of her life years into the future. The storyline follows her romance with Hugh, a British suitor, and their plans for marriage. Among the futuristic flourishes in the episode is the subtle but telling use of advanced technology in relationships and ceremonies. From communication gadgets to references to computerized planning, the show hinted at a world where even the most personal milestones like weddings would be shaped by digital innovation. At the time, in 1995, this idea was just another comedic layer of science fiction whimsy. Weddings were traditional affairs, rooted in physical spaces, community gatherings, and face-to-face celebrations. But 3 decades later, the concept feels uncannily prophetic. By 2025, virtual and hybrid weddings have moved from novelty to accepted practice, with digital platforms, VR environments, and even AI efficiency playing a role in how couples tie the knot. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated this transformation, normalizing remote gatherings. Couples began hosting weddings on Zoom, streaming ceremonies for relatives across continents, and experimenting with creative digital formats. What started as necessity evolved into a trend. Tech-savvy couples now book virtual venues, from scenic digital beaches to fantasy castles, where guests attend using avatars or VR headsets. Some companies even offer hologram weddings, where loved ones unable to travel can appear as life-sized projections alongside the couple. AI-powered officiants, programmed with customizable voices and styles, are being used to conduct ceremonies that range from deeply traditional to wildly futuristic. In Japan, one service allows people to marry using animated avatars of themselves, while elsewhere, VR platforms like Altspace VR and Horizon Worlds host fully immersive receptions. This trend reflects more than convenience. It's a shift in how people understand relationships in a digital-first age. Virtual ceremonies allow for inclusivity across borders, lower costs compared to traditional weddings, and highly personalized experiences that blend imagination with commitment. Yet they also raise questions. Does a virtual wedding carry the same emotional weight as a physical one? Are we strengthening connections or replacing intimacy with spectacle? By spotlighting future wedding tech in Lisa's Wedding, The Simpsons tapped into a cultural evolution we are now living through. What once played as a tongue-in-cheek nod to a high-tech future is unfolding before our eyes. Marriage is shaped not just by love and family, but by software, holograms, and digital platforms. In 2025, the line between the physical and the virtual altar has never been thinner. Zombie outbreak via contaminated food. In the Halloween special, Treehouse of Horror 20, Season 21, Episode 4, aired October 18, 2009, one of the darkly comedic storylines involves Springfield facing an apocalyptic scenario after residents consume tainted fast food. In this segment, contaminated crusty burgers trigger a zombie outbreak, transforming innocent citizens into the Walking Dead. As with all Treehouse of Horror episodes, the story was meant as parody, lampooning society's obsession with junk food, corporate negligence, and horror cliches. But beneath the laughs lay a chilling what-if scenario about food safety, disease, and the global consequences of contamination.
Ultra-processed food affects people's mental abilities, according to a new study in Australia, which found that older people were negatively affected by things like junk food.
Fast forward to 2025, and this idea feels less like fantasy and more like a metaphor for real fears we live with today. While the world hasn't experienced an actual zombie outbreak, the COVID-19 pandemic proved how quickly an unseen threat can spread, reshape daily life, and test governments' ability to respond. In that sense, The Simpsons zombie plot becomes an allegory for pandemics, an infection spreading from something as ordinary as food, magnified by global trade and mass consumption. Today's food industry, more industrialized than ever, faces scrutiny over how contamination can trigger public health crises. Outbreaks of E. coli, salmonella, and listeria continue to affect countries worldwide. In an era of global supply chains, a single contaminated product can reach millions of homes within days. The Treehouse parody of mass-produced burgers gone wrong echoes these modern anxieties. But the prediction also ties into debates of 2025 around the rise of lab-grown meat and alternative proteins. Advocates argue these technologies could reduce risks of zoonotic diseases, those transmitted from animals to humans, by cutting reliance on industrial livestock farming, a known hotspot for pathogens. Critics, however, warn that rushing synthetic foods to market without long-term research could backfire, creating unforeseen health consequences. The imagery of Springfield turning into zombies after eating artificial burgers feels eerily aligned with these discussions. What happens if the very foods designed to sustain us become the source of crisis? Another connection is the cultural fascination with zombie metaphors for public health. Experts often describe pandemics as zombie-like in their spread, relentless, exponential, and difficult to contain once unleashed. The Treehouse episode exaggerated this into the realm of horror comedy, but the underlying fear of losing control to an invisible threat resonates in 2025. Even the corporate negligence satirized in the episode has a modern ring to it. Just as Krusty the Clown cared more about profit than safety, critics today accuse multinational corporations of prioritizing efficiency and cost-cutting over long-term sustainability and consumer well-being. The lesson remains timeless. When corners are cut in food safety, the consequences can be catastrophic. Ultimately, The Simpsons didn't predict literal zombies. It tapped into humanity's recurring fear that the systems we rely on for nourishment could betray us. From pandemics to lab-grown meat controversies, the tainted burger storyline feels like a grotesque cartoon mirror of the anxieties shaping our real-world future. Stick around, because the strangest prophecy is still ahead. Fashion recycling and thrifting craze. In the Simpsons season premiere, Thrifty Ways to Thieve Your Mother, Season 37, Episode 1, aired September 28, 2025, Lisa unexpectedly becomes a style icon by digging into Marge's old wardrobe. When she dons her mother's vintage 90s outfits, she is quickly embraced by Springfield's school fashion elite and invited to join a school fashion club that emphasizes thrift and retro style. As Lisa and her new friends begin raiding thrift stores for retro finds, they grow frustrated at rising prices. Ultimately, the fashion club hatches a more extreme plan, pilfering old clothes from the homes of Springfield mothers, timing their heists during a mother-son dance when most of the mothers and sons are out, and using a diversion, switching TVs to a violent show, to distract the fathers. While the theft plot is cartoonish and extreme, the core idea reflects a real cultural moment, that secondhand fashion and clothing recycling are fast becoming cool, not just necessary. By 2025, the concept of a circular fashion economy is more than just a buzzword, it's an urgent movement. Consumers concerned about climate change and waste are shifting away from fast fashion, opting to buy used, repaired, or upcycled clothing instead. Thrift stores and resale platforms like Depop, Poshmark, ThredUp, and Vinted have grown enormously in popularity, especially among younger shoppers. These platforms let users trade, resell, and even rent clothing, extending the life cycle of garments and reducing textile waste. Many major brands have responded by launching re-commerce programs, inviting customers to trade in old items in exchange for discounts, then reselling those items as pre-owned. Others are experimenting with subscription models or rental services for high-end fashion. Some fashion houses are going further, designing garments to be fully disassembled or recycled from the outset, embracing cradle-to-cradle design. In 2025, luxury resale is also booming. A designer bag that might once have sat in a closet for years can now fetch top resale value, encouraging more people to treat clothing as assets rather than disposables. This shift isn't just cultural, it's economic. Resale is projected to grow faster than fast fashion in many regions, reflecting a seismic change in how we view consumption. But there are challenges. Overconsumption still dominates overall fashion trends. Some thrift platforms struggle with overstock, quality control, and logistics, and as resale becomes more lucrative, the prices at secondhand stores can rise, pushing lower-income buyers out of these markets. That tension echoes what Lisa sees in Springfield. Rising thrift prices eventually push the fashion club toward extreme measures. The Simpsons episode satirizes the extremes, stealing vintage clothes, obsessing over nostalgia, and turning thrift into a high-stakes contest. But beneath the humor lies a mirror of our moment, the shift toward reuse, recycling, and valuing what already exists is no longer fringe. It's central to conversations about sustainability and climate impact. And finally, the most mind-blowing prediction of them all, you'll want to see this. Obesity drug revolution. In the episode The Last Man Expanding, Season 36, Episode 13, aired April 6, 2025, Springfield is swept up in a craze over a new miracle weight loss drug called Othinquick. All the overweight residents begin taking it, everyone except Homer, who initially resists. Barney reappears thin and claims he's been on Othinquick as part of a treatment for hyperglycemia, with weight loss being a side effect. As more citizens adopt it, some citing diet and exercise, the town's restaurant business collapses. Meanwhile, Homer hesitates. Marge urges him to use it for his health, but he balks at the cost. As the plot unfolds, side effects emerge. Sagging facial skin requiring fat injections, melancholy among users, and a plot twist involving Fat Tony kidnapping Homer to harvest his fat for cosmetic fixes. Ultimately, Marge exposes the dangers and argues for returning to eating habits that value health, self-love, and moderation over drug dependency. On its face, The Simpsons satirizes the pharmaceutical hype cycle, quick fixes, social pressure to conform, and the shadow side of weight loss drugs. The episode frames Othinquick as a stand-in or exaggeration of real medications like Ozempic and Wegovy. By 2025, the obesity drug revolution is already underway. Drugs that target appetite, metabolism, or hormonal pathways, for example, GLP-1 receptor agonists, have reshaped the landscape of weight management. These medicines, once niche, are now part of mainstream conversation among doctors, patients, celebrities, and the media. The parallels to The Simpsons' prediction are striking. Like Springfield, in many real communities, individuals experience strong social and psychological pressure to adopt the miracle drug, sometimes before long-term safety or access are fully settled. Many people see these medications not just as therapy, but as a fast track to aesthetic ideals. However, just as Othinquick's side effects emerge in the episode, real drugs also carry risks. Long-term effects, cost burdens, insurance coverage gaps, and off-label use are ongoing concerns. Critics warn that dependence on pharmaceutical solutions can overshadow the importance of diet, exercise, and holistic health. Some argue that treating obesity too simplistically, through injection and pills, risks medicalizing body diversity and exacerbating stigma around weight. Another element the show touches on is inequality. In Springfield, Homer can't afford Othinquick and resorts to underground sources. In reality, access to these medications is uneven. High costs, insurance hurdles, and regulatory limitations mean not everyone who might benefit can obtain them. Moreover, The Simpsons elevates the question of identity and self-worth. When everyone else is becoming thinner, resistance takes on moral weight. Homer's refusal to follow the crowd becomes an act of defiance, suggesting that self-esteem and acceptance can't be outsourced to a pill. In 2025, the obesity drug revolution is more than medical. It's cultural, economic, and ethical. The Simpsons imagined a town mesmerized by a quick fix. Real life is not far behind. What started as satire may be capturing the contours of a real crisis, one where health, beauty, profit, and identity collide. Do you believe the Simpsons writers have inside knowledge, or is it all just coincidence? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You'll love it.